Hello everybody, I'm Father Casey, pastor of Epiphany of Our Lord Church, and I welcome you once again to our YouTube video, The Fourth Magi. This week in the Gospel, Jesus is very explicit about what happens when we ignore the poor, the needy, the helpless. Jesus tells a story about a rich man who remains unnamed, a man who dresses in fine purple linen, not because he goes to Roman Catholic high school, just because he's rich. But he wears fine purple linen, and he eats sumptuously every day. Those are Jesus' words. And there's this poor guy, Lazarus, who is laying outside his gate every day. And the rich man ignores him every day, doesn't even give him the scraps from his table. And the only comfort he receives is from the dogs of the street who come and lick his sores. So he's physically unhealthy, he's poverty stricken, he needs help. And there's somebody right within his reach who can help him, and doesn't. He does nothing. And then eventually Lazarus dies, and eventually the rich man dies. And the story continues where the rich man from the netherworld, as Jesus describes it, a place that's not so good, pretty hot, because he yells out to Lazarus, who he sees, and says, Lazarus, dip your finger in water and put it on my tongue so that it may cool the suffering that I'm receiving. And Lazarus, who's with Abraham at the time, Abraham says to the rich man, no, you had it really good in the world. You had lots of money, you had lots of things, and yet you were comforted, you were comfortable. And now you receive the reward in this life. And Lazarus, who had nothing in the previous world, he now receives the reward of the goodness of his heart and the things that he did in this world. And you're there because you did nothing for this guy. And he's not even going to give you a dip of water for your tongue. And just so you know, Abraham yells to the rich man, there's a huge chasm between the two of us so that you can't get over here and no one from here can get over there. And so he says, wait, send Lazarus to my brothers so that they'll know that, that bad things will happen to them if they don't do right in the world. And Abraham says, no. Moses told you, Abraham told you, Isaac told you. They have the scriptures, they have the prophets. They know from the scriptures that what they're supposed to do. And if they choose not to do it, well then, so be it, they'll wind up where you are. And the rich man says, no, but if somebody from the dead comes and tells them, then they'll listen. And Abraham says, no. If someone from the dead comes back and tells them, they still won't change. Because they are who they are, in effect. So, the clear thing is that we are told by Jesus in that story that we are commanded to help those who are in great need. And if we don't, then there will be severe consequences. Everyone likes to think Jesus is like, peace, love, and understanding, like Jesus is a flower child from the 60s, and it's like all cool. But no, Jesus is very clear that what we do in this world will have consequences in the next. And he constantly tells a story of how we are supposed to look out for the poor. And we're not just talking about financially poor. We're talking about emotionally poor, mentally poor, physically poor. We're called to help those who are less fortunate than we are. We might be rich in many things, not just money, but we might be rich in talent. We might be rich in our skills. We might be rich in the ability to listen, for instance. I mean, I could go on and on about the different ways in which we are rich, but we're then called to help those who don't have what we have, and we're called to help them. You might be a student in school, and you might be a straight A student. You might be brilliant, and there might be somebody in your classroom who's not doing so hot. Might be trying and struggling. Maybe we could help them. Maybe you could help them. Maybe there's something that needs to be done on a neighbor's home, and you happen to be a plumber. You're like the best in the business, but that person just can't afford a plumber. Maybe it's a woman who's a widow and has been alone and doesn't really know what to do. Maybe as a plumber, you help them out. Not for financial gain, but because Jesus commands us to help those who need us. So this week, let us pay close attention, because Jesus is very clear. The person in need was right outside his door. And so the person that might need us might be in our very own home, might be in our own very own neighborhood, our very own classroom, our very own place of business. And if we ignore them, well, things are not going to go so well for us when all is said and done. So let's not let that happen. Let's pay attention to those who are in need and be there for them and not have to wait until it's too late. God bless you. Have a great week.